The Browning estate was silent, except for the faint whisper of rain brushing against the glass. Midnight had long passed, and the hallways were bathed in the dim amber glow of recessed lights that seemed too elegant for the loneliness they illuminated. Natalie stood barefoot at the top of the grand staircase, her nightgown brushing the cold marble floor, her breath shallow and trembling. Something had woken her, perhaps the vibration of a phone, or the strange intuition that sometimes drifts into the hearts of women who have learned to feel danger without knowing its shape. She crept down the hallway toward the study, the place Lel always retreated to when he wanted to disappear from her world. The door was half open. A thin line of light spilled across the hallway, cutting through the dark like a secret unwilling to stay buried. She heard his voice, low, steady, almost lazy, the tone he used only when he believed he was in control. "Listen," Lel said, laughter tucked behind his words. "I know what I'm doing. The timing isn't ideal, but we'll handle it. We always do." A pause followed, and Natalie caught the faint clink of glass whiskey, probably the good kind he only poured when business went well. "Yes," Lel continued. "She's still here, unfortunately. Her presence irritates me most days. It's like living with a shadow always near, but never saying anything worth hearing." Natalie froze. Her heart didn't race. It simply stopped. He chuckled, then a sound she hadn't heard in months, the kind of laugh that once melted every defense she had. But tonight, it sounded like something breaking. "I wish she'd disappear," he said. "Vanish. Make everything simpler." The words landed with precision, slicing the air between them. Natalie's hands pressed against the wall for balance. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't gasp. Her body understood before her mind could. Something sacred had ended. On the other end of the call, a woman's voice replied, muffled but unmistakably intimate. "And if she does?" "What then?" "If she does," Lel said softly, "I'll finally be free." The room fell silent. The conversation ended with the faint chime of a call disconnecting. Then came the sound of a chair creaking, a glass being set down, and a man exhaling with satisfaction, the sound of someone unburdened. Natalie stayed hidden in the shadows, her thoughts spiraling. Who was the woman? Was this a business partner? A lover? The way he'd spoken, low, playful, almost conspiratorial, told her everything. She turned away before he could leave the room. Her reflection flashed across the tall window at the end of the hall, pale, hollow-eyed, unfamiliar. For the first time she realized she didn't recognize the woman staring back at her. Downstairs, the rain thickened, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. She descended the staircase, one slow step at a time, each footfall echoing faintly. The chandelier above her shimmered, scattering shards of light across the walls. The house was beautiful, every inch curated to impress. But tonight, it felt like a museum of her own erasure. She entered the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were steady, but her reflection in the window trembled. On the marble countertop sat a vase filled with fresh lilies. Lel had not bought them for her, his assistant had. He hadn't remembered their anniversary last week, or the week before that, when she'd held her first art exhibition alone. She whispered his name once softly, as if saying it might make him human again. But the word dissolved in the stillness. She thought of her grandmother's voice, the woman who raised her after her parents died, whose wisdom had stitched together every broken piece of her youth. "Baby girl, the day you have to shrink to fit into someone's life is the day you need to leave it." The sentence lingered like a ghost beside her. Natalie set the glass down and walked back toward the staircase, her mind a storm of questions with no safe harbor. In the hallway, she paused outside Lel's study again. Through the crack in the door, she could see him now seated at his desk, scrolling through something on his phone. His expression was calm, almost bored. There was no trace of guilt. Then something happened. Something small, but sharp. His phone buzzed again, and the name that flashed across the screen was E. Lel smiled. Natalie didn't need to know more. She turned away and walked down the corridor toward the guest room, the one place in the mansion that still felt like hers. Inside, she sat on the edge of the bed and opened the drawer of the nightstand. Her journal was there, leather-bound, worn at the edges, filled with handwriting that had once been soft and round, but had grown rigid over time. She flipped to a blank page and wrote only one line. "He said he wishes I'd disappear. Tomorrow I will." She stared at the words for a long moment. Then she tore the page out and tucked it inside the front cover like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, deep and distant. Natalie stood and began to walk through the house room by room, touching objects as if saying goodbye. The piano she had learned to play when they were newly married. The framed wedding photo in the hallway, his smile perfect, hers too bright to be real. The painting she had made of their honeymoon sunset, now hanging above the mantel, had been ignored by him for years. She reached the foyer and stopped beneath the chandelier, its light glinting like shattered glass. A memory flickered of Lel standing there years ago, slipping a ring on her finger, promising that he'd never let her feel alone again. Promises she realized were just words waiting to betray you. She walked to the study door one last time. It was closed now, the light beneath it steady and cold. Her hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling not from fear, but from the weight of understanding. Inside that room was a man who no longer loved her. Perhaps had never loved her at all. But outside that door, beyond the walls of this mansion, there was still a world that might. She let her hand fall and took a step back. Then she whispered something only the walls could hear. "Be careful what you wish for, Lel. Disappearances have consequences." She turned and went upstairs to the guest room again. She packed quietly, not much, just what fit into one small bag. Her passport, a stack of envelopes she'd written, but never sent, and a few sketches she couldn't bear to leave behind. She placed her wedding ring on the desk beside the journal and took a photo of it, proof for herself that she was done begging to be seen. When she lay down that night, the rain softened to a murmur. Sleep didn't come, but clarity did. At dawn, Lel woke alone, the other side of the bed, cold. In the distance, he heard the faint echo of a door closing. A sound so ordinary, he didn't even look up from his phone. By the time the sun rose over the estate, Natalie was gone. But she didn't vanish without a trace. On his pillow lay the leather journal, open to the first page he'd never seen. Beneath her delicate handwriting, one line shimmered in the morning light. "I disappeared, so you could finally see what you destroyed." And somewhere beyond the estate's gates, a car engine hummed softly. The road ahead was endless, and Natalie did not look back. But inside the mansion, Lel's phone began to ring again. The name E flashed once more across the screen. He smiled as he answered. Then his smile faded. A voice, low, unfamiliar, and trembling, spoke on the other end. "Mr. Browning," the caller said, "this is the police. We've found something that belongs to your wife." The line went silent. The morning after Natalie's disappearance, the Browning estate felt different. Not quiet, or no quiet had always lived here, but hollow, like the echo of something sacred that had been stolen in the night. The staff moved carefully, speaking in whispers, their eyes flickering toward the main bedroom door that remained firmly shut. Lel sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the spot where Natalie used to sleep. The sheets were smooth, untouched, but a faint trace of her perfume lingered, faintly sweet, faintly cruel. He reached for his phone, automatically swiping through emails, texts, and messages, but none from her. Not a word. It wasn't unusual for her to vanish into her studio when she was upset. What was remarkable was the empty closet. Every dress, every pair of shoes gone. The jewelry box was open, stripped bare except for her wedding ring. He didn't notice it at first. It had fallen onto the floor beside the nightstand, catching a fragment of light from the window. He picked it up. Cold, heavy, final. For the first time in years, Lel felt something that wasn't controlled. It was confusion. Raw, humiliating confusion. He pressed a hand against his temple and muttered, "She wouldn't actually leave. She's too sensible for that." But Natalie was gone. The security guard at the gate said she had left at dawn driving her own car, no luggage except one bag. No goodbye, no note, no trace except the journal left on his pillow. He hadn't read it yet. Some part of him refused to. Reading it would make it real. Reading it would mean admitting something had fractured beyond repair. He went downstairs instead. At the kitchen counter, Benjamin, the family lawyer, and his younger half-brother were waiting. The man was sharp, composed, a wolf disguised in a tailored suit. His calmness was infuriating. "You heard she's gone," Lel said flatly. Benjamin poured himself coffee. "Yes, I also heard the police called this morning." Lel's head snapped up. "Police?" "They found her car," Benjamin said. "Abandoned near the cliffs outside town. Door open. Keys still in the ignition." A chill swept through the room. Lel stood slowly. "What are you saying I'm saying?" Benjamin replied. "You should call your lawyer before you call anyone else. Because when a man's wife disappears after a midnight argument and her car is found near a drop that kills everything that falls, people ask questions. I didn't argue with her. Didn't you?" Benjamin tilted his head. "Strange. She thought you did." Lel's pulse hammered. "You've spoken to her?" Benjamin smiled faintly, not confirming, not denying. "I always speak to her when she needs advice. She trusts me more than she trusts you. But this time she's beyond advice." "What the hell are you implying?" Lel snapped, stepping closer. Benjamin didn't flinch. "Read the journal she left you." Then H4E turned and walked out, leaving Lel frozen in the silence. Natalie's journal sat on the marble table in the study. He stared at it for hours before finally opening it. The first page wasn't the one she'd written last night. It was older, months old. "He speaks to me like I'm air. Maybe I am. The air he breathes, but never sees." He turned the page. "He told me my art was childish. I smiled and agreed. That's what I do agree. It's easier than fighting with a man who wins even when he's wrong." Page after page. Words that sliced with elegance. Pain that bled in beautiful sentences. Then something new. A name. Evelyn. Evelyn called again. She laughed when I answered like she didn't expect me to. I asked her what she wanted. She said, "To remind you that your husband isn't who you think he is." Then she hung up. Lel's hand tightened around the journal. Evelyn. That was the name flashing on his phone last night. He remembered the voice that came after the police officer who said they'd found something of Natalie's. He grabbed his coat and keys. At the police station, the air smelled of coffee and cold paper. Detective Harris met him with an expression that was neither sympathetic nor accusatory, just curious. "We found her car near the cliffs," Harris said, flipping open a file. Inside, there was a sketchbook. It was unusual. Unusual how the detective slid it across the desk. Lel opened it and froze. Every page was a portrait of him. Not as he was, but as she saw him, fragmented, monstrous, faceless. Some with eyes missing. Some with cracks down the middle of their faces. "She's an artist," Lel muttered. That's all this is, maybe Harris said. But we also found a torn envelope. It had your brother's initials on it. Lel's jaw tightened. Benjamin? Yes. It looked like she mailed something to him registered 2 days before she vanished. Do you have it? Not yet. But if she's been in touch with him, he might know more than he's telling you. Lel left without another word. Outside, the sky had darkened again. The wind from the cliffs carried the faint taste of salt and rain. His phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. Stop looking. Some truths are worse than guilt. No name. No number. Just the message. He looked around, scanning the street. A black car was parked across from the station engine running. The windows were tinted. It drove away before he could take a step toward it. Meanwhile, miles away, Natalie sat in a small cafe near the sea, hidden beneath a dark coat and hat. She stirred her coffee without drinking it, eyes fixed on the gray horizon. Across the table sat Evelyn. You think he's panicking? Evelyn asked. Natalie's lips curved into a quiet, haunted smile. I hope he is. Are you sure this is the way he wanted me gone? Natalie whispered. So I gave him what he wanted. Now I want to see what he does without me. Evelyn leaned back, studying her. You're smarter than he ever realized. Natalie looked down at the ring-shaped mark still faint on her finger. He took everything that made me believe in love. Now I want to see what happens when that belief turns into power. They sat in silence, the hum of the cafe swallowing the storm outside. Then Evelyn reached into her bag and slid an envelope across the table. He'll come for you eventually. When he does, you'll need this. Natalie didn't open it. She just nodded. Outside, thunder rolled again. The storm was returning. And somewhere on the other side of that storm, Lel Browning was standing in the ruins of his certainty, clutching a journal, a sketchbook, and a name that wouldn't leave his mind. Evelyn. The woman he thought he controlled, the woman who was now gone. And the one woman who might destroy him wasn't Natalie. It was Evelyn, because she wasn't just a lover. She was the architect of a plan far larger than either of them realized. And as Natalie drove away from the coast that evening, headlights cutting through the mist, she whispered to herself, sometimes the only way to reclaim your life is to let them believe they've lost you. Her phone vibrated once. A message appeared. From unknown. He's reading the journal. Everything begins now. Natalie smiled faintly and kept driving toward the dark horizon. The news broke 2 days later. The wife of prominent investor Lel Browning is missing under mysterious circumstances. Authorities suspect foul play. Headlines flooded the media. Reporters gathered outside the iron gates of the Browning estate, cameras flashing through the rain, hungry for a scandal. Lel watched them from the upstairs window, jaw-clenched, eyes hollow. His empire had survived lawsuits, betrayals, and market crashes, but never this kind of chaos. And this time he couldn't buy his way out. Inside the study, the phone rang again. Benjamin's name lit up the screen. Lel ignored it the first 2 times. On the third, he answered. Tell me you've found her. Benjamin's voice was calm, almost too quiet. I haven't. But I found something else. What? A wire transfer. From your private account. To an Evelyn Ward. Lel froze. That's a lie. It's not. $500,000. 2 weeks ago. Labeled as consulting fees. She withdrew every dollar in cash the next day. Lel's mind spiraled. Evelyn. The name from the phone call. The woman from Natalie's journal. The one who was supposed to be gone. Who authorized that transfer, he demanded. Benjamin hesitated. You did. That's impossible. Nothing's impossible with you, brother. You sign faster than you read. The line went dead. Lel stood motionless for a moment, then tore through his files, pulling up transaction logs, email chains, and authorization codes. And there it was, his digital signature dated and verified. But he hadn't signed it. Someone had. And that someone had his password. Across town in a rented apartment above a florist shop, Evelyn Ward stood by the window, a cigarette between her fingers, the smoke curling into the dawn light. She was elegance sharpened into danger, grace with a pulse. She watched the TV in silence. Lel's face filled the screen, followed by a photo of Natalie's wedding. Reporters dissected every word, every rumor. A man appeared behind her. Lucas, her associate, her lover, her shadow. "He looks broken," Lucas said. "That's the point," Evelyn replied softly. "Break him, then own him." Lucas smirked. "And Natalie, she'll play her part. She always does." "She trusts you too much," Lucas said. Evelyn turned, her eyes glinting. "No one trusts me too much. They trust me before they realize they shouldn't." She walked over to the table where a stack of photographs lay, scattered shots of Lel's estate, his office, his security staff, his private vault. Every detail of his life was mapped and categorized. "Why him?" Lucas asked. "You could have chosen anyone." "Because he's the kind of man who thinks he can't be outplayed," Evelyn said. "And because Natalie needed a reason to disappear. I gave her one." Lucas frowned. "You're using her." "I'm teaching her," Evelyn corrected. "She thinks this is about revenge. But what I'm building—" She paused, sliding a photo of Lel's vault toward him, "is much bigger." He stared at her. "You're stealing from him." "Not stealing," she whispered, "reclaiming what men like him think belongs to them." That evening, Lel received an unmarked envelope that had been slipped under his door. Inside was a flash drive and a note written in Natalie's handwriting. "You'll find the truth where you least expect it." He plugged it into his laptop. The screen flickered to life, displaying grainy surveillance footage. It showed the entrance to the storage facility where Natalie's art was kept. Timestamp 3 nights before she vanished. In the footage, Natalie entered the facility. Minutes later, another figure appeared. Evelyn. The two women spoke briefly, then hugged each other. Together they loaded several crates into a van. Lel's breath caught. It wasn't a disappearance. It was a plan. But a plan for what? He rewound the footage, slowing it down. Something shimmered on one of the crates, a stenciled logo he recognized. It was from his own company, Browning Capital. Those weren't paintings. They were storage containers filled with confidential financial ledgers he had buried years ago to hide illegal transactions. The same ones that could destroy his empire. He stood up so suddenly that the chair crashed behind him. Natalie hadn't just left him. She had taken his secrets. And Evelyn had helped her. The next day, Lel arrived at Benjamin's office without calling ahead. Benjamin was mid-meeting when the door burst open. "Get out!" Lel barked at the assistant, who scurried out immediately. Benjamin leaned back, unimpressed. "Still allergic to courtesy, I see. Tell me everything you know about Evelyn Ward." Benjamin smirked. "You mean the woman who managed to pull off what the SEC couldn't?" "She's brilliant. Cut the sarcasm." "She used to work for you," Benjamin said, sliding a file across the desk. "Internal Audit Division, 6 years ago. You fired her after she uncovered one of your creative accounting choices. I barely remember her." "Funny," Benjamin said. "She remembers you perfectly. And she's been patient. Very patient." Lel scanned the file. Evelyn had been dismissed with a non-compete clause and a settlement. But there were letters handwritten between her and Natalie. Discussions about betrayal, freedom, and something they called the reset. "What is the reset?" Lel demanded. Benjamin shrugged. It could be what happens when a man loses everything he thought he owned. Lel slammed his hands on the desk. You knew she was plotting this. I suspected. But I didn't stop her. Benjamin's eyes narrowed. Frankly, you deserved a lesson. For a moment, Lel considered hitting him. But Benjamin's calm stare stopped him. Be careful, Benjamin added quietly. Evelyn isn't just clever. She's dangerous. And if Natalie's truly with her, you've already lost more than your wife. Meanwhile, in a coastal safe house an hour away, Natalie stood before a canvas brush in hand. The room smelled of salt turpentine and the scent of freedom. Evelyn entered carrying a folder. He knows now, she said. Natalie didn't turn. Good. Are you sure you're ready for what comes next? Natalie painted another stroke, a blurred figure dissolving into the sea. I'm not doing this for revenge, she said. I'm doing it for the truth. He built everything on lies, and I let him. I won't anymore. Evelyn studied her. You're not the same woman who came to me crying 3 months ago. I buried that woman with my old life. Evelyn smiled faintly. Careful. You sound like me. Natalie finally turned eyes steady. That's what you wanted. Maybe, Evelyn said, but her tone held a hint of unease. Just remember, when you play a game of vanishing, the one who disappears isn't always the one who wins. Before Natalie could reply, the doorbell rang. Evelyn frowned. No one was supposed to know this location. She motioned for Natalie to stay back and went to the door. When she opened it, a courier stood there holding a sealed package. Delivery for Ms. Ward, he said. She took it cautiously. No return address. Inside was a single item, a Polaroid photograph. It showed Lel standing outside his estate, watching something burn. On the back, written in black ink, You think you're the only one who knows how to disappear? Evelyn's blood ran cold. Because in the corner of the photo's reflection, barely visible in the window behind Lel, was a silhouette she recognized. Lucas, her own man, watching Lel, smiling. Back at the estate, Lel stood in the flickering light of the burning fireplace, a half-empty glass in hand. He'd found the leak not just in his accounts, but in his circle. Evelyn wasn't the only one who could play games. He lifted his phone, opened a secure file, and typed a message. To Lucas. Subject: change of plan. Message: bring her to me. He hit send and whispered into the flames, almost affectionately, let the vanishing game begin. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammering the glass, wind howling through the trees. And somewhere along the coast, 2 women prepared to outsmart a man who had already rewritten the rules. Only one thing was sure now. No one was innocent anymore. The storm outside hadn't stopped for 3 days. It roared against the windows of the coastal house where Natalie and Evelyn had been hiding, as if the sea itself wanted to tear through the walls and demand answers. Inside, the air had changed. It was thicker, heavier, no longer filled with the quiet calm of 2 women sharing an alliance, but with the unspoken tension of 2 minds wondering who would betray first. Natalie sat at the small wooden table, sketching lines that looked less like art and more like escape routes. Evelyn stood by the window, pacing, phone in hand. He's moving, Evelyn said finally, her tone sharp. He froze 3 of his shell accounts this morning. Someone warned him. Natalie didn't look up. Maybe he's just not as stupid as you thought. Evelyn turned, eyes narrowing. You're defending him now. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying. Lel never acts without a reason. If he's changing his patterns, it means he knows something. Evelyn exhaled, smoke, the cigarette glowing in the dim light. Then we'll move faster. How fast? Tonight. Natalie finally looked up. Tonight, Evelyn, we're not ready. Evelyn smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of her lips. We were never supposed to be ready. That's how he operates. You win by catching him before he catches you. But Natalie's gut twisted. Something about Evelyn's urgency didn't feel strategic. It felt desperate. Across town, in a luxury suite overlooking the city, Lel Browning was no longer the composed man the world once envied. He was sharper now, calculating awake in a way he hadn't been for years. The fire in the corner flickered against a table, cluttered with photos, phone records and maps pinned with red strings. At the center of it all was a single picture, Natalie and Evelyn standing together outside a cafe, captured by a street camera. Lucas sat across from him, a faint smile on his face. You have a strange way of saying thank you. I already paid you, Lel replied. Not enough for what you're asking next. Lel looked up slowly. And what am I asking to betray the woman I sleep with? Lel poured himself another drink. You shouldn't have chosen her. Lucas laughed softly. You don't understand, Evelyn. She doesn't get betrayed. She anticipates betrayal and builds it into the plan. Lel leaned forward. Then I'll outthink her. I always do. Lucas studied him. You think this is still about money, about revenge? It's about control. Lucas shook his head. No, Browning. It's about love. You broke her heart, and Evelyn just taught her how to weaponize it. For a moment, Lel's composure cracked. He turned toward the window, rain streaking down the glass like veins of light. You're wrong, he said softly. Natalie doesn't hate me. Not yet. Lucas grinned. That's what makes you dangerous. You're betting on a feeling that might already be dead. Back at the coastal house, Natalie packed her sketchbooks and a small envelope of cash. The decision burned inside her like a fever. She couldn't tell if she was running toward freedom or away from Evelyn. Evelyn entered the room without knocking. Where are you going out? Out, where for air? Evelyn's smile didn't reach her eyes. You don't trust me anymore. Should I? Natalie asked quietly. Evelyn stepped closer. You think I'm using you, aren't you? Evelyn tilted her head. Maybe I am, but you're using me too. You needed someone who could make Lel bleed without getting your hands dirty. Don't pretend you're innocent in this. I never said I was innocent. Then what are you afraid of? Natalie hesitated. I'm afraid of becoming you. That struck deeper than either expected. For a heartbeat, the room fell silent, except for the rain hammering the glass. Then Evelyn said softly, Good. Fear keeps you alive. She reached into her coat and handed Natalie a phone. If something happens to me tonight, you call the number saved as Shadow. They'll get you out of the country. No questions. What's happening tonight? Natalie asked, her voice low. Evelyn's gaze flicked toward the window. We end this, once and for all. Midnight. The coastal wind screamed through the empty streets as Evelyn's car glided through the fog. Natalie sat in the passenger seat, watching the headlights carve through the mist. Where are we going? She asked. Evelyn's hands tightened on the wheel. To take back what he owes us. The car stopped outside a remote warehouse near the docks. Inside was one of Lel's private storage facilities, a place few people even knew existed. Evelyn produced a key card. Old habits, she said. He never changes the locks. They stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and secrets. Rows of sealed containers lined the space like tombs. Evelyn walked with purpose, scanning numbers until she found the one she wanted. B47. This is it, she whispered. What's in there, Proof? Evelyn said. Everything he buried. Everything he built on lies. She swiped the card, and the container door hissed open. Inside were metal boxes stacked neatly, each labeled with financial codes, offshore accounts, and company names that existed only on paper. Natalie felt dizzy. You really did it. Evelyn smiled faintly. We did it. But before she could take another step, a voice echoed from the shadows. Did I let you walk in without saying hello? Lel stepped into the light. He looked different, darker, somehow. Less human, more storm. Behind him, Lucas emerged, gun in hand. Natalie's breath caught. Lucas. He shrugged. Business is business. Evelyn's jaw tightened. You sold us out. Lucas grinned. You taught me too well, love. Lel's gaze shifted to Natalie. I told you once that you'd never understand the games I play. And yet here you are standing in the middle of one. Natalie met his eyes. This isn't a game, Lel. It's the truth. He stepped closer. The truth is subjective, especially when you don't know who's lying to you. Evelyn reached for something in her coat, but Lucas cocked the gun. Don't. Lel raised a hand, stopping him. No. Let her. I want to see what she thinks she's capable of. Evelyn slowly withdrew, not a weapon, but a flash drive. She held it up. This contains everything. Your offshore accounts, the fake charities, the property transfers, one email to the press, and your empire burns. Lel smiled. Then do it. What, send it, he said. Expose me. Watch what happens. Evelyn hesitated. Something in his tone made her falter. You see? Lel continued, stepping closer. You've both been playing the wrong game. While you were plotting revenge, I was rewriting the rules. The moment you opened that container, every biometric scanner in this facility logged your presence. Police will find your fingerprints all over stolen property worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Natalie's eyes widened. You set us up. No, Lel said softly. You set yourselves up. I just gave you the stage. Evelyn's hand trembled around the flash drive. You won't win. I already have. Lucas smirked, lowering the gun. He's right, Evelyn. It's over. But before Lel could take the drive, Evelyn moved fast, precise. She slammed the flash drive into a nearby terminal and hit enter. The screen blazed to life, uploading files to an encrypted cloud. Too late, she whispered. You can destroy me, Lel, but not the truth. Alarms erupted. Red lights flashed. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Lel grabbed her arm. You don't know what you've done. Evelyn met his gaze and smiled through the chaos. Oh, I know exactly what I've done. Natalie pulled free from the confusion, running toward the exit as police sirens grew louder. She turned once Lel and Evelyn locked in a stare that felt less like hatred and more like recognition. Then the door slammed shut behind her. An hour later, Natalie stood at the cliffs, the wind clawing at her hair, her pulse still racing. Below her, the sea raged. Her phone buzzed, a message from Evelyn. Please don't wait for me. If you still want freedom, run. The world will think we all burned together. That's how we win. Natalie stared at the message, tears mixing with the rain. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she threw the phone into the sea and whispered, No, Evelyn. That's how you win. I'm done running. Behind her, faraway flames lit up the horizon, the warehouse burning like a confession against the night sky. And somewhere in the smoke between destruction and survival, two people still breathing in the dark were thinking the same thought. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of something far more dangerous. Would you like me to continue with Part 5, The Ashes Deal, where Natalie steps out of hiding only to find that the truth Evelyn unleashed has consequences no one can control, and Lel begins to realize that obsession can be another form of love. You said, the warehouse burned until dawn. By morning, the fire had swallowed Steele's secrets and people, or at least that's what the news said. Massive explosion at Browning Industrial Storage. 3 presumed dead: Lel Browning, Evelyn Ward, and an unidentified woman. Natalie stood in the back of a crowded diner, hood pulled low, watching the headline crawl across the television screen. She hadn't slept. Her hands still shook, not from fear, but from disbelief. She was alive. They thought she wasn't. And maybe that was the only advantage she had left. She slipped out before anyone noticed and walked toward the harbor, the morning fog rising like ghosts over the water. She had nowhere to go, but at least she had one thing no one could take from her: any more choice. Miles away, Lel Browning was also watching the same broadcast, alive, unburned, hidden inside one of his lesser-known safe houses. His reflection on the TV looked ghostly, as if a man had been resurrected from the ashes of his own empire. Evelyn had escaped too. He knew, because the system pinged. The biometric alert at the warehouse had recorded 3 escapes, not 2. One signal disappeared offshore. One lingered just long enough to suggest a deliberate misdirection. Evelyn was alive, and so he suspected was Natalie. He set down the glass in his hand, staring into nothing. "You wanted to vanish," he murmured. "Now I get to decide how you return." A knock broke his thoughts. Lucas entered, soaked from the rain, a bruise darkening his jaw. "Everything's falling apart," Lucas said. "The media's ripping into your company investigation subpoenas. Your name's poison." Lel smiled faintly. "That's the beauty of being presumed dead. I don't have to defend it." Lucas threw a file onto the table. "The file Evelyn leaked is incomplete. Someone intercepted part of it." "You know what that means?" Lel's eyes flicked up. "It means she's bargaining." That same night, Natalie met an unfamiliar man in a quiet bar near the docks. He wore a tailored coat, a sharp expression, and the kind of confidence that only comes from knowing everyone else is one move behind. He introduced himself, Adrian. "I don't drink," Natalie said, glancing at the glass he offered. "Neither do I," he replied, setting it down untouched. "But we need to look like people who do." Her eyes narrowed. "Who sent you?" "Let's say I work for those who profit from chaos." Evelyn's file made many people nervous. "You, Ms. Browning, might be the only one left who knows where the rest of it is. I don't have it." He smiled, slow and knowing. "You have what she left you." Natalie's heart skipped. Evelyn's last message had mentioned a shadow account, something she never understood. "You're wasting your time." "On the contrary," Adrian said, leaning closer. "You're sitting on something worth more than love or revenge. You're sitting on leverage." He slid a small USB across the table, a piece of what Lel's people couldn't recover. "You should see it." Natalie hesitated, then pocketed it. "Why help me?" "Because power always needs a new owner," he said. "And you look like a woman ready to claim hers." Meanwhile, in a dimly lit hospital several towns away, Evelyn Ward stirred awake. Her body ached, wrapped in bandages and pain, but her mind was sharp as ever. A man in a gray coat stood by her bedside, flipping through her medical chart. "Where am I?" she rasped. "Somewhere quiet," the man said. "The world thinks you're dead. You can thank Lel for that. He leaked the footage first." She tried to sit up but winced. "Where is he?" "Gone," the man said. "But not far. He's rebuilding." Evelyn's lips twisted. "He always rebuilds. That's what monsters do." "You're not exactly innocent," the man replied. "No one in this story is." He smiled faintly. "Good. Because I'm not here to save you. I'm here to offer you a deal." "What kind of deal?" "The kind that lets you finish what you started. But you'll need her help." Evelyn's heartbeat quickened. "Natalie." He nodded. "You wanted to teach her power. Now you'll see if she can use it." 2 days later, Natalie opened Evelyn's flash drive on a borrowed laptop in a cheap motel. The files unfolded like a map of corruption shell companies' offshore accounts, political bribes. But at the bottom of the list was something she didn't expect, a video file. She clicked it. The footage showed Evelyn sitting in a dark room. "If you're watching this, I'm either dead or I've become what I swore to destroy," Evelyn said. Lel thinks he owns every piece of the truth, but he's wrong. The real secret isn't in the money. It's in the names of the people who helped him build his empire. You'll find them under Ash's deal. Decide what to do with it. But remember, Natalie, power without mercy becomes another kind of cruelty. The screen went black. Natalie sat frozen, the Ash's deal. That was the real weapon, not the money. The names, politicians, CEOs, judges, people whose downfall could shake the entire country. And now she had it. Her phone buzzed a private message from an unknown number. "If you want to survive this, meet me at Dock 12. Midnight." She recognized the writing. Evelyn. Midnight came like a confession. Dock 12 was empty, except for fog and the rhythmic slap of waves against the pylons. Natalie waited, every nerve on edge. A car approached. Headlights cut through the mist. Evelyn stepped out alive, bruised, but still commanding. "You're alive," Natalie whispered. Surprised, Evelyn smiled faintly. "I told you, I'm hard to kill." Natalie's voice trembled between anger and relief. "You used me. I prepared you," Evelyn corrected. "But you've done better than I thought. Do you have the file then?" Natalie's eyes flicked to the bag at her side. "You said it was about justice. Now it feels like a trap." "It's both," Evelyn said. "Lel isn't the only one who wanted you silenced. There are others, men who built empires beside him. They'll come for you next. Unless what? Unless we make a deal with the devil before he makes one with them." "You mean Lel?" "Yes." Natalie stared at her. "You want to work with him?" Evelyn stepped closer, her voice low and steady. "We give him the Ashes file. In exchange, he protects us until we can disappear for good." "That's wild. It's survival." Before Natalie could respond, a shadow moved behind the crates, quiet, deliberate. Lel stepped out of the darkness. "When you'd bring that up," he said softly. Natalie's heart raced. Evelyn didn't flinch. "I told you he'd come," Evelyn murmured. Lel's eyes burned into both women. "You always did underestimate me, Evelyn. Did you really think I wouldn't trace the drive signal?" He turned to Natalie. "And you've always been the only one who could destroy me or save me. So which is it tonight?" Natalie's voice was barely a whisper. "You killed who I was, Lel. You don't get to decide who I become." Lel stepped closer, his tone soft, almost tender. "Maybe I already did." Evelyn raised a gun. "Step back." Lel smiled. "You won't shoot. You need me alive as much as I need her." The tension snapped like glass under pressure. Then from somewhere beyond the dock, the sound of engines roared, black cars pulling in fast. Evelyn's face went pale. "They found us." "Who?" Natalie asked. Lel answered for her. "Everyone who was part of the Ashes deal. They want their secrets back." Evelyn's gun wavered. Lel's hand moved toward Natalie. "Choose," he said, "them or me." Natalie looked between them, heart pounding. The world narrowing to 3 shadows and 1 impossible choice. Then she whispered, "Neither." She grabbed the bag and ran toward the end of the dock. Bullets shattered the night. Evelyn shouted. Lel cursed. The water exploded around her as she dove into the darkness. When she surfaced, the dock was in chaos. Flames, shouts, gunfire. She swam toward the faint outline of a boat drifting free. Behind her, the world she'd known for years burned again, just like the warehouse, just like her past. But this time, she wasn't running. She was reborn. As she climbed aboard, gasping and trembling, she looked back at the inferno and whispered to herself, Let them destroy each other. I'll build something new from the ashes. And somewhere in that storm of fire and betrayal, both Lel and Evelyn realized too late, Natalie was no longer the prey in their story. She was the player they never saw coming. The ocean was merciless that night, black waves crashing against the hull of the small boat as Natalie steered through the storm. Wind tore at her hair, rain blurred the horizon, and yet she felt something she hadn't in years: freedom. When the sky began to pale, she reached the edge of the city's harbor. Behind her, the world she'd known, the mansion, the betrayal, the dock was reduced to smoke and silence. Ahead lay a skyline rising out of fog, indifferent but full of possibility. Natalie tied the boat to a rusted pier and stepped onto land with nothing but a soaked bag and a flash drive wrapped in plastic. She had no allies left, no home, and no certainty. But she had leverage. The Ashes deal still existed, and now it was entirely hers. 3 weeks later, the name Natalie Browning became a ghost in the digital world. Surveillance cameras failed to recognize her. Financial systems rejected her identity. Her face altered by subtle changes, and a forged passport belonged to someone else now. She had learned fast. Disappearing was no longer a matter of survival. It had become a matter of strategy. Her new life began under the alias Clara Vance, where she rented a small flat above an old bookstore. But the apartment wasn't just a refuge. It was the headquarters of a plan, a quiet, deliberate game of reconstruction. She reached out to people who existed in the same gray areas Evelyn had once dominated: hackers, data brokers, and whistleblowers. She didn't trust any of them, but she paid well and never revealed too much. By the time a month passed, Natalie had created something that neither Lel nor Evelyn had ever expected: a silent network of insiders, codename the Queen's Gambit. Their mission wasn't revenge, it was control. Every piece of information Evelyn had stolen, every secret Lel had hidden, Natalie now owned, and she was ready to use it. Meanwhile, Lel Browning was not dead. He had rebuilt himself like a phoenix that refused to burn. His new base of operations was a penthouse in Lisbon, under an alias known only to a few. The business world believed Lel Browning's empire had fallen. But beneath the ruins, a new foundation had already begun, one even darker, more refined, more ruthless. Lucas stood across from him, scanning a tablet. "We've traced encrypted transfers. Someone's been selling pieces of the Ashes deal to international buyers, small fragments, nothing complete." Lel didn't look surprised. "Natalie?" Lucas hesitated. "Or Evelyn?" "No," Lel said. "Evelyn would hoard it. Natalie would weaponize it. She's learning faster than either of us expected." He rose from his chair, the city's lights gleaming behind him. "Find her. But don't bring her to me. Watch her. I want to see what she does next." Lucas nodded, but didn't move. "And if Evelyn gets to her first," Lel smiled coldly, "then let them destroy each other. I'll step in to help with the cleanup." In Paris, Evelyn sat across a marble table from Adrian, the man who once offered Natalie the flash drive. "You gave her my leverage," Evelyn said, voice sharp as a blade. "I gave her an opportunity," Adrian replied. "You underestimate her. She's not ready to play my game." Adrian's smirk deepened. "She's not playing yours anymore." Evelyn leaned forward. "You think she's dangerous?" "She's something better," he said. "Unpredictable." Evelyn exhaled, tapping a manicured finger on the table. "Find her for me." "Why?" Evelyn's tone softened, a dangerous kind of softness. "Because if Lel finds her first, he'll turn her into something unrecognizable. And whether I hate her or not, I won't let him have her." That night, Natalie met with one of her new contacts, a woman named Jade. a former corporate spy who'd traded loyalty for anonymity. "The Ashes file is poison," Jade said, sliding a folder across the table. "Everyone wants it. Everyone's terrified of it. You're playing with fire." "I'm not playing," Natalie replied. "I'm winning." Jade raised an eyebrow. Even Lel thought he was winning until Evelyn set him on fire. Natalie smirked. "Then I'll burn smarter." She opened the folder. Inside were surveillance photos, grainy shots of Evelyn in Paris meeting Adrian. Another image showed Lucas in Lisbon watching Lel's car from a distance. "Two predators," Jade said. "Both are hunting you." "Then, let them chase each other," Natalie murmured while I moved the board. Days later, Lel received a package. No return address. Inside was a chess piece, the queen carved from glass. Beneath it, a handwritten note. "Checkmate isn't when you win, Lel. It's when the opponent realizes they never stood a chance." He chuckled, a sound that carried both pride and rage. "Clever girl," he whispered. Lucas frowned. "You're enjoying this." "Of course. She finally understands me." But understanding Lel meant walking a line between intellect and madness. And soon, Natalie realized the board she'd built had too many players. One evening, she returned to her flat to find the door ajar. The lights were off. She moved carefully, hand-gripping the small pistol hidden under her coat. Inside, the air smelled faintly of smoke and perfume. She didn't have to ask whose. Evelyn stepped out from the shadows. "You've gotten good at disappearing," Evelyn said. "And you're terrible at staying dead," Natalie replied. They faced each other, two reflections of the same storm. "You built something," Evelyn said. "A network. You called it the Queen's Gambit. You taught me the rules," Natalie said. "I just learned to play better." Evelyn smiled, but her eyes were cold. "I didn't come to fight you. I came to warn you. Lel is using you as bait." Natalie frowned. "Bait for what?" "For me," Evelyn said softly. "He knows I'll come for you before I come for him." Natalie hesitated. "And why would you?" "Because you're still too good for this world," Evelyn said, stepping closer. "You still believe there's a right side to be on." "There isn't." Natalie stared at her, searching for sincerity. "Then why save me?" Evelyn's voice dropped. "Because I remember the woman you were before you learned to lie like us." Before Natalie could reply, glass shattered behind them, a silenced shot hitting the window. Evelyn pushed her down. "Move!" They ducked behind the couch as another bullet tore through the wall. "Who is it?" Natalie hissed. Evelyn peeked through the curtains. "Lucas. Lel sent him." Natalie's pulse raced. "Why me?" Evelyn reloaded her pistol. "Because, darling, when men can't control power, they kill it." The shootout was fast and chaotic. Lucas was efficient, ruthless, and unrelenting. Evelyn returned fire, while Natalie slipped out the back, sprinting down the alley with the flash drive in hand. By the time she reached the street, the apartment was ablaze behind her. Flames licked the night sky once more. She looked back only once and saw Evelyn standing in the window, surrounded by fire and smoke, watching her go. Natalie's chest ached, not from fear, but from something she didn't want to name. Hours later, Lel received a call. "It's done," Lucas said. "The apartment's gone." "And her?" Lel asked. Silence. "She escaped," Lucas admitted. Evelyn didn't. Lel's eyes darkened. "Good." Lucas hesitated. "You don't sound surprised." "I'm not," Lel said quietly. "That's precisely how Evelyn planned it." He hung up, staring at the glass queen on his desk. Then slowly, he turned it over to reveal a small inscription carved into the base. "The queen always moves last." He smiled a slow, dangerous smile. because he knew that wherever Natalie was hiding, she had just made her first real move. Meanwhile, on a train speeding through the Swiss countryside, Natalie sat alone watching the dawn rise over snow-covered peaks. In her lap was the flash drive, the Ashes deal, the last living proof of everything they'd fought for. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. A single message appeared. "The board is set. Your move, Queen." She didn't reply. She just stared out at the endless white horizon and whispered to herself, "Then let's play." And as the train disappeared into the mountains, the world prepared for the next move in a game where love, power, and betrayal were no longer enemies, but weapons. Would you like me to continue with Part 7, The Mirror War, where Natalie begins turning Lel's allies against him, only to discover that Evelyn might have survived, and that the final phase of the game is far more personal than she ever imagined? You said. The train cut through the Alps like a blade through silence. Natalie sat by the window, her reflection faint in the glass, half woman, half ghost. Snow drifted past the window, pure and endless. But inside her chest, a familiar storm of unfinished vengeance burned. She was supposed to feel safe here, hidden beneath a new name, with her enemies buried in smoke. But peace, she'd learned, was only another disguise. And disguises never lasted long. When the train stopped at Zurich Central, a man slipped into the seat across from her with a gray coat. Calm smile, eyes that knew too much. "Don't scream," he said softly. Natalie didn't move. "Who sent you?" "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to deliver a message." "From who?" He slid a small envelope across the table. "Someone who's supposed to be dead." Her heart stuttered. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a chess piece, the knight and a single note in handwriting she recognized instantly. "You played well, Queen, but the board isn't yours yet." E. Natalie's fingers went cold. "Evelyn," she whispered. The man smiled faintly. "She's alive, and she's moving faster than you." Before she could ask more, the man rose and exited the train as it began to move again, leaving her alone with the note. She stared at it for a long time, then whispered to the empty seat, "So the war continues." In Lisbon, Lel Browning stood at the balcony of his penthouse, overlooking the river. The sun glimmered on the water, deceptively calm. Lucas entered quietly, tablet in hand. "There's movement," he said. "Bank accounts linked to the Ashes deal are being reopened." "Not by Natalie." Lel turned, intrigued. Evelyn. Lucas nodded. "We traced the signal somewhere in Eastern Europe. However, the network she's using has complex military-grade encryption." Lel smiled. "That's not her work. That's someone funding her." Lucas frowned. "Funding? Someone always funds chaos," Lel said. "Find who's protecting her. Find the money. That's where she'll be." He walked back inside, past a table covered with files and photos. One of them showed Natalie standing outside a Zurich cafe, looking over her shoulder. Lel's fingers brushed her image. "She's building something," he murmured. "Something clever. But she's still playing by the rules Evelyn taught her. And regulations," he smiled darkly, "were meant to be rewritten." That night in Zurich, Natalie met Jade again at a hidden jazz bar tucked beneath an antique bookstore. Smoke curled above dim lamps, and the sound of a slow trumpet filled the air. Jade leaned close, voice low. "You were right. Evelyn's alive. But that's not the real problem." "Then what is?" "She's building a new alliance. Ex-intelligence agents, tech smugglers, and even some of Lel's old financiers. She calls it the Mirror." "The Mirror," Natalie echoed. Jade nodded. "It's exactly what it sounds like, a reflection of your network. Every move you make, she mirrors it one step behind, or maybe one step ahead. Natalie sat back, the realization sinking like poison. She's forcing me to fight myself. Not just you, Jade said. She's manipulating Lel too, and feeding him just enough truth to keep him chasing both of you. So she wants us to destroy each other. Jade's eyes flicked toward the stage. She's already started. Natalie followed her gaze. A man sat at the bar, Lucas, alone, watching them. Natalie's pulse quickened. He's here. Jade's hand brushed the pistol beneath her coat. Orders. Natalie shook her head slowly. No. Let him see me. Let him carry a message back. To Lel. Natalie's lips curved into a faint smile. No. To Evelyn. Lucas didn't move when Natalie passed him. He turned his head slightly enough for their eyes to meet. She stopped, the air between them thick with memory. You're alive, he said quietly. You sound disappointed. Evelyn told Lel you were dead, and you believed her. Lucas's mouth twitched. I don't believe anyone anymore. Then why are you following me? Because the two of you started a fire that's consuming everything he said. And I'm standing in the middle trying to decide which one of you burns slower. Natalie leaned close. Then choose carefully, Lucas. Because the one who burns slower usually wins. She walked away, leaving him staring after her, unsettled. 3 days later, Natalie's network intercepted a transmission between Evelyn's operatives. The message was brief but devastating. Target Zurich. Phase 2. Extraction of the Queen. Natalie's mind raced. She's coming for me. Jade frowned. Or for the file. Same thing, Natalie said. She stood pacing the room. We strike first. Leak a fragment of the Ashes deal, not enough to expose everyone, just enough to shake her investors. Make them doubt her. Jade nodded. That'll draw her out. Exactly, Natalie said. If she wants to play Reflections, then she'll see her own face staring back at her. In Paris, Evelyn received the news. Her associate burst into the room. The Queen leaked a portion of the file. Evelyn didn't react. She sipped her coffee. Let her. Every move she makes reveals her position. She's forcing your financiers to question you. Good, Evelyn said with a smile. Fear keeps them loyal. She stood and walked to the window, her reflection merging with the city lights. Natalie thinks she's fighting me, but really she's learning how I feel. That's what makes her dangerous, and that's why I can't kill her. Her associate frowned. Then what's your plan to make her choose? Evelyn whispered, between destroying me and saving him. At that exact moment, Lel's phone vibrated. A single anonymous message. Evelyn has the rest of the file, but she doesn't want to sell it. She wants to use it to bring you back. Lel read it twice, eyes narrowing. Bring me back. Lucas looked confused. What does that mean? It means Evelyn's not after money, Lel said slowly. She's after control. She wants me visible again, powerful again. Because she knows I'm the only one who can destroy Natalie. Lucas shook his head. You think she's still in love with you? Lel smiled faintly. Love and hate are the same drug. She's addicted to both. He closed his laptop and said quietly, set a meeting. Zurich. If they want a war, I'll give them one. The city became a chessboard. Natalie's agents moved through the underground tunnels beneath Zurich, while Lel's men arrived in sleek cars. And somewhere in between, Evelyn's mirror network watched both sides feeding false information to each. No one trusted anyone. Every step forward felt like a trap disguised as progress. At midnight, in an abandoned museum by the river, three forces converged. Natalie entered first, flashlight in hand, pistol at her side. Then Lel stepped from the opposite corridor, his voice smooth as ever. "Which of you would come first?" "I should have known you'd make it personal," Natalie said. Everything between us was personal. Before she could reply, a slow clap echoed through the chamber. Evelyn emerged from the shadows, flanked by 2 guards. "Beautiful," she said, gesturing around. 3 players, 1 endgame. Lel's jaw tightened. "You planned this." "Of course I did," Evelyn said. "The mirror doesn't reflect chaos. It creates it." Natalie's eyes narrowed. "Why bring us here?" Evelyn smiled. "Because neither of you understands yet. This was never about money or power. It was about who would survive the truth." "What truth?" Lel demanded. "That I'm not your enemy," Evelyn said softly, turning toward Natalie. "She is." The words struck like lightning. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the lights cut out. Gunfire shattered the silence, and the war that began with love finally descended into darkness. When the lights flickered back on, the museum was empty, only echoes remained. Somewhere in the chaos, one of them had escaped with the real Ash's deal. But no one knew who. Only a single message appeared online the next morning. Signed, "The mirror cracked, but the Queen still stands." The world believed the mirror war had ended that night in Zurich. But wars like these never truly end. They change shape, just like the people who start them. In the ruins of the abandoned museum, silence lingered where gunfire had once echoed. The floor was streaked with blood, and the broken glass of the skylight shimmered like scattered diamonds under the pale moonlight. Natalie stood among the wreckage, breathing hard. Her pistol hung loosely in her hand. The file was gone. The Ash's deal, every name, every secret had vanished into the dark, and Evelyn had vanished with it. 2 weeks later, Natalie resurfaced in Vienna under the alias Clara Vance once again. Her network. The Queen's gambit had fractured after the shootout. Some members had gone silent, while others had turned mercenary. Trust had dissolved into currency. But she was alive, and in her world, that was still a victory. Late one evening, while reviewing encrypted messages in her candlelit apartment, a new transmission appeared. No sender ID, no traceable origin. It contained only one sentence. "You still don't know who's moving the pieces, Queen." And then a live location pin. She hesitated only a moment before packing her coat and leaving. The coordinates led her to an abandoned opera house on the edge of the city. Its facade was cracked, its marble columns blackened by time, yet inside, the stage lights glowed as if waiting for an audience. A single figure stood under the spotlight, Evelyn. She looked untouchable, dressed in black, every movement precise. "I was thinking you'd forgotten how to follow clues," Evelyn said. Natalie's voice was steady. "You stole the file." "I protected it," Evelyn corrected. "You still don't understand what it really is." "Then explain." Evelyn smiled faintly. The Ash's deal wasn't just a list of corrupt names. It was a mirror, a reflection of the system that created men like Lel and women like us. Natalie frowned. "So, you burned everything to prove a point." "I burned it," Evelyn said, stepping closer to give us a clean slate. Natalie's voice cracked raw with disbelief. "You think chaos is a clean slate?" "Sometimes," Evelyn whispered. "You have to break the mirror to see what's behind it." Natalie's pulse quickened. "You sound just like him." Evelyn stopped inches away. "Maybe that's why you can't let him go." The words hung between them, sharp and accurate. "Where is Lel?" Natalie asked quietly. Evelyn tilted her head. "You really don't know?" "Tell me." Evelyn turned away. her heels echoing against the marble floor. He's in Prague, and he's not hunting you anymore. He's hunting me. Meanwhile, in Prague, Lel Browning sat in a cathedral-turned-data center, surrounded by humming servers and cold, dim light. On one screen, Evelyn's image flickered. On another, Natalie's. Lucas entered, handing him a report. Your old network's collapsing. Everyone's turning on each other. Good, Lel murmured. Fear makes people predictable. Lucas hesitated, and her Natalie Lel's gaze lingered on the screen. She's unpredictable. That's why she'll survive longer than any of us. He leaned back, the faintest trace of a smile curving his lips. But even queens need a kingdom to rule. And soon there'll be nothing left. Lucas folded his arms. You're enjoying this, aren't you? This isn't enjoyment, Lel said. It's clarity, the illusion's breaking. He paused, then added softly, Do you know what Evelyn once told me? That love and power are identical, because both require surrender. She was wrong. Love destroys. Power endures. In Vienna, Natalie sat across from Jade at a quiet cafe, snow drifting past the windows. He's in Prague, Jade said. The mirror network is collapsing around him. You could end this now. Natalie stirred her coffee, her thoughts distant. End it how expose him. Leak what's left of the files. Walk away. And become what a ghost with no cause. Jade studied her. You're not doing this for justice anymore, are you? Natalie looked up. Justice died the moment Evelyn and Lel turned it into a game. I'm doing this because I need it to mean something. Jade nodded slowly. Then make it mean survival. That night, Natalie crossed the border under a false passport. By dawn, she was in Prague. The city was cold and quiet, its cobblestone streets glistening under frost. She followed the signal her network had traced a secure location near the river. When she entered the cathedral, Lel was waiting. He looked calm even as armed guards flanked the walls. You took your time. I was deciding whether you were worth finding, Natalie said. Lel smiled faintly. And what's the verdict that depends on whether you're still human? He walked closer, his voice a low murmur. You of all people should know Natalie. Humanity is overrated. Her eyes didn't waver. Where's Evelyn gone? Lel said. She left me one last gift before she disappeared. What gift? This. He tossed a tablet onto the table. The screen displayed a live video feed, servers burning data disintegrating line by line. The Ashes deal is gone, Lel said. Every copy, every backup. She destroyed it. Natalie's stomach dropped. Why? To make sure neither of us could win. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of machines filled the air. Then Lel said quietly, You realize what she's done, don't you? She made herself the only truth, left the ghost who wins by vanishing. Natalie stared at the screen, flames flickering in her eyes. Then it's time ghosts stop winning. Later that night, Lel found her standing outside, gazing out over the river. The city lights shimmered across the water, fractured and beautiful. You could have run, he said. I did, she replied for too long. He stepped beside her. So what now? Natalie turned to him. We end it. Together. Lel's brow lifted. You'd work with me. I'm not working for you, she said. We burn what's left. The mirror network. The gambit. Every trace of what we built. No more secrets. No more games. He oversaw her. And when it's over, then I disappear for good. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret, maybe. You won't. I will. He reached out, brushing her hand. You're still chasing peace in a world that doesn't believe in it. She met his gaze. And you're still pretending control is love. For a heartbeat silence. Then Lel whispered, Maybe they're the same thing. Natalie stepped back. That's why you'll never understand me. 3 nights later, flames once again lit the European sky. The servers, the networks, the ledgers all burned. The gambit and the mirror died together, leaving no trace. The next morning, Lel's penthouse was empty. His accounts are frozen. His empire was erased, and Natalie gone. Only one encrypted broadcast appeared online, transmitted from an unknown source. The message was simple. The game ends when you stop playing. The rest is freedom. Signed, N. Months later, on a quiet island in the Mediterranean, a woman sat painting by the sea. Her hair fluttered in the wind. A small scar traced her temple, a memory of everything she had survived. A figure approached from a distance, his shadow stretching across the sand. Lel. He stopped a few steps away. You really did it. Natalie smiled without looking up. No, we did. He studied her quietly. So this is peace. She dipped her brush into the water. It's whatever's left after the war. Lel took a deep breath and said softly, Do you ever miss it, the game? She paused, then smiled faintly. Only when I forget who won. He tilted his head. And who was that? She looked up at him, eyes steady and calm. The one who stopped playing. The wind carried her words out to the sea. And for the first time in years, Lel Browning had no move left to make. The island slept beneath a silver moon, waves whispering against the shore, like secrets that refused to die. Natalie sat by the window of the villa, paintbrush in hand, her canvas half finished. She'd promised herself this place would be her sanctuary, a world untouched by betrayal, power, and ghosts. But peace never lasts for people like her. A faint vibration broke the quiet. Her phone, a device she hadn't used in months, buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with an unknown number. A single message. The Queen never retires. Checkmate isn't the end. Her pulse froze. The message was signed only E. Natalie stared at it for a long time, her mind struggling between disbelief and instinct. Evelyn was dead, or at least she was supposed to be. Natalie had seen the flames consume the network, the files, everything. And yet something inside her whispered, Evelyn never dies. She reinvents herself. That same night, far from the island, Lel Browning stood on the balcony of a Monaco penthouse, gazing out over the glowing city. He'd arrived under a new identity, stripped of his empire, but not his purpose. Lucas appeared behind him holding a folder. It's spreading, he said. Someone's been re-releasing pieces of the Ashes deal, not the original files, reconstructed data. Smart, selective. Lel's jaw tightened. Who? Lucas hesitated. No one knows, but the pattern, it's too elegant. It's her style. Lel turned sharply. Evelyn's dead. Then she's haunting you from the servers, Lucas replied dryly. Lel didn't smile. Find her. Lucas frowned. And if it's not her, Lel stared out at the glittering horizon. Then it's someone who wants me to believe it is, and that's more dangerous. 2 days later, Natalie left the island. She told no one, packed, lightly dressed, and boarded a small private plane, using her Clara Vance alias. The world she'd built in silence no longer felt safe. If Evelyn were alive, she would be somewhere Natalie could find her, or somewhere she wanted to be found. Her destination, Geneva. The city where every lie wears a suit and every truth hides in a vault. When she landed, a black car waited for her. No driver visible, no license plates. She hesitated only a second before stepping inside. The door locked automatically. A voice came through the speakers, smooth, female, chillingly familiar. Welcome back to the board, Natalie. Her blood ran cold. Evelyn, I told you once, the voice continued. The game only ends when you stop playing. But you didn't stop, did you? Natalie's grip tightened on the seat. What do you want? I want to offer you the truth. Come to the Hôtel d'Élysée, Suite 614, midnight. Come alone. The line cut. Natalie exhaled shakily. You always did love drama, she muttered. Midnight arrived like an omen. The Hôtel d'Élysée stood gleaming in the city's old quarter, its chandeliers still burning after centuries of secrets. Natalie entered quietly, her coat hiding the small pistol holstered beneath her sleeve. She took the elevator to the 6th floor. Suite 614's door was slightly ajar. She pushed it open. The lights were low. The air scented faintly of jasmine, the same perfume Evelyn used to wear. On the table, 2 glasses of wine waited untouched. And across the room, a shadow moved. Evelyn stepped into the light. Alive, flawless, unscarred. Hello, Natalie, she said softly, smiling as if they'd never been enemies. You look almost disappointed to see me breathing. Natalie's heart pounded. How Evelyn shrugged. I built too many back doors ever to be trapped in one fire. You let me believe you died. I needed to, Evelyn said, to see what you'd become without me. Natalie glared. And now you've come back to finish what we started. Evelyn's smile faded. No. To stop what's coming. Evelyn gestured toward the table. On it sat a tablet displaying a digital map filled with pulsing red dots. Those are the people who profited from the Ashes deal, she said. When we burned the files, they didn't disappear. They adapted. They're rebuilding under a new front, the foundation. Natalie frowned. And why tell me? Because they're using your name. Natalie froze. What? Evelyn tapped the screen. One of the dots expanded, showing a corporate logo, the Queen's Trust. Whoever's behind this, Evelyn said they're using your alias, Clara Vance, to funnel black money through charities and political campaigns. In the last 6 months, you've donated over 40 million euros. Natalie's throat tightened. You think Lel's behind it? Evelyn nodded. He's rewriting your identity into his legacy. He's making you his shadow. Natalie's mind raced. Why now? Because he knows you'll come for him, Evelyn said. He's counting on it. Natalie looked at her sharply. And what do you gain by warning me? Evelyn met her gaze evenly. Because he's coming for me too. In Monaco. Lel received the report an hour later. She's in Geneva, Lucas said. Met with Evelyn tonight. Lel closed his eyes briefly, a faint smile curving his lips. Perfect. Lucas frowned. You expected this. I orchestrated it. What do you mean I leaked the data, Lel said. A few lines from the Ashes deal enough to lure both of them out. Evelyn can't resist a trail. And Natalie, she can't resist closure. Lucas exhaled. So what's your end game? Lel turned toward the window. To end the illusion. Once and for all. Back in Geneva, Evelyn poured herself a glass of wine. He's going to make a move soon, she said. He'll try to draw us into one final confrontation. Natalie's eyes narrowed. Then, we don't wait. Evelyn looked impressed. You've changed. No, Natalie said quietly. I've just stopped being afraid of what I'm capable of. She stood. You know where he is, Monaco, Evelyn said. But if you go now, he'll be ready. You need to think like him. Natalie smirked. I don't need to think like him. I need to feel like you. Evelyn's lips parted in a surprised smile. Careful, darling. The line between us is thinner than you realize. Natalie turned for the door. It may be time for someone to erase it. The final act unfolded 3 days later. The Monaco coast glimmered beneath a blood-orange sunset. Lel stood on the terrace of a private villa, watching the sea with the calm of a man who thought he'd already won. The guards at the gate had been bribed. The security cameras looped. The chessboard was empty except for the queen moving unseen. Natalie entered through the back, her footsteps silent. She found him where she knew he'd be, on the balcony, drink in hand, waiting. "You came," Lel said, not turning. "You wanted me to." He turned slowly, eyes dark and unreadable. "Evelyn gone," Natalie said. "But she left a message." Lel raised an eyebrow. "And what did she say?" "She taught me how to end kings. She fired once." The bullet shattered the glass beside his head. Not him. Lel didn't flinch. "You won't kill me." "No," Natalie said. "I'm not giving you that power." She dropped the gun to the floor. "I'm taking back my name, my life, my silence." Lel stepped forward, voice low. "You think walking away makes you free? You'll always be part of me." Natalie smiled sadly. "Maybe, but you'll never be part of me again." Then she turned, walked into the night, and disappeared down the marble stairs before the guards could even react. At dawn, a private jet took off from the Monaco runway, its destination unknown. Inside sat Natalie, and across from her Evelyn. Evelyn looked at her with quiet admiration. "You didn't kill him." Natalie glanced out the window. "No, I just made sure he has to live knowing he lost." Evelyn smiled faintly. "You've become more dangerous than both of us combined." Maybe Natalie said softly. "But unlike you, I still remember why I started." "And why is that?" Natalie met my eyes. "Because I wanted to stop being a pawn." Evelyn nodded. "Then consider this your coronation, queen." The jet ascended into the clouds. Below them, the world they had burned glittered faintly, still turning, still corrupt, still waiting for someone brave enough to rewrite its rules. And for the first time, Natalie didn't feel haunted. She felt infinite. The jet cut through a sea of clouds, its engines humming softly against the silence between the two women. Evelyn stared out the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass, while Natalie sat opposite, her calm but alert eyes sharp, heart steady. For months, they had lived like ghosts, haunting the men who once ruled them, rewriting the rules of their own survival. Yet now, at 40,000 feet, it felt as if the game they had built so carefully was finally coming undone. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said at last, her tone deceptively light. "We've burned their empires, ruined their names, and yet we're still here, still playing." Natalie glanced at her. "You sound tired." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Tired isn't the word. I'm curious. Do you ever wonder who you've become?" Natalie didn't answer. She didn't need to. The woman she'd become wasn't the same one who'd once cried over betrayal, who'd once painted sunsets to escape the dark. That woman was gone. Instead, she said quietly, "I became what they made me, but I'll end what they started." Evelyn leaned back. "You really believe that?" "I don't believe," Natalie said. "I decide." Hours later, the jet landed in a remote airfield outside Marrakesh. The desert wind rolled across the tarmac like whispered warnings. A black SUV waited for them. Inside sat Lucas. Natalie froze for a split second. "You're working for her now." Lucas smiled. "I've always worked for the winning side." Evelyn smirked. "And I always make sure I am on the winning side." Natalie slid into the seat beside him, her instincts screaming. "If this is another trap, I'll end it myself." "Relax," Lucas said, eyes flicking to her in the mirror. "You'll want to hear this. Lel's not dead." Evelyn turned sharply. "Impossible. Lucas shook his head. He's alive. Disappeared for a few weeks. Now he's back and he's not alone. He's rebuilt everything under a new identity. A global security conglomerate, Browning Technologies. Quiet, legal, and growing faster than any of his old ventures. Evelyn's face hardened. He's using our chaos to clean himself. Lucas nodded. He's already repurchasing influence. Governments, private militaries. He doesn't just want money this time. He wants control. Natalie whispered. Control of what? Evelyn looked at her grimly in truth. He's rewriting the narrative, painting himself as the victim, and us as the architects of corruption. Natalie exhaled, voice trembling but fierce. Then we rewrite it one more time. 3 nights later, they arrived in Dubai. Lel was hosting a private gala at a high-rise overlooking the sea, an event disguised as a charity fundraiser, but attended by the powerful, the corrupt, and the complicit. The Queen, the Knight, and the Ghost walked into the lion's den. Natalie wore a sleek black gown, her hair pinned in elegant waves. Evelyn beside her was a vision of ice-silver dress, scarlet lips, and the calm smile of a woman who had mastered every lie. Lucas trailed behind them, earpiece and scanning the crowd. Security was tight, but Evelyn's old connections still worked. Within minutes, they were inside the upper floors where Lel waited. He stood near the balcony, surrounded by diplomats and financiers, his charm intact, his mask perfect. The moment his eyes met Natalie's, the room seemed to vanish. "Natalie," he said softly. I wondered how long it would take. She stepped closer. "You're good at surviving." He smiled. "I had the best teachers." His gaze shifted between her and Evelyn. "But tell me, are you partners now, or just sharing the same ghost story?" Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. "We came to the end of this." Lel tilted his head. "End? No, darling. You don't end something that was never real. You wake up from it." Natalie's jaw tightened. "You can lie to them, but not to me. You built everything on destruction, on using people. You made us weapons." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "And yet, here you are, deadlier than I ever imagined." Evelyn interjected, voice cool but sharp. "We're not your creations anymore." Lel chuckled softly. "Aren't you? Every move you make still follows the rhythm I taught you. You burn, you rebuild, you deceive just like me." Natalie's voice broke through his arrogance. "Then I'll learn to destroy like you too." The tension snapped when the lights dimmed. Screens around the hall flickered to life. Footage filled the room, hidden recordings, secret deals, bribes. Lel's empire laid bare. Guests gasped. Phones flashed. Panic spread. Evelyn smirked. "We uploaded everything to the global feeds. Every file, every account, every name. The truth's public now." Lel's calm cracked. "You think you've won? You just gave them a martyr. They'll rebuild me stronger." Natalie stepped closer, whispering, "Not this time. The world doesn't worship martyrs. It devours them." Guards burst through the doors. Gunfire erupted. Lucas pulled Natalie down as glass shattered above them. Evelyn ducked behind a column, firing back. Lel disappeared into the chaos. When the smoke cleared, half the hall was in ruins. Evelyn stood over a fallen guard, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Natalie crawled to her side. "We have to go." Evelyn's grip tightened on her arm. "Listen to me," she hissed. "He'll run. You'll chase him. And when you find him, don't make the same mistake I did." "What mistake?" Evelyn's voice weakened. "Thinking I could outlove the man I wanted to destroy." Her hand fell limp. "Evelyn." Natalie shouted, but it was too late. Lucas dragged her to her feet. We have to move. They fled through the shattered corridor, sirens wailing in the distance. Hours later, Natalie found Lel on the rooftop helipad, wind whipping through his hair, blood staining his sleeve. He turned as she stepped forward, gun in hand. You came alone, he said softly. I had to finish this myself. He smiled almost tenderly. Then finish it. She aimed the gun at his chest, but hesitated. I could kill you, she said, but then I'd be no different. He stepped closer. You already are. That's why I loved you. The words hit harder than any bullet. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Lel whispered, I never wanted power, Natalie. I wanted to be remembered. She lowered the gun. You will be like the man who finally lost. Lel's smile didn't fade. Losing was the point. Before she could reply, he stepped backward off the edge. The sound of the helicopter blades drowned her scream as his body vanished into the dawn below. Days later, the world knew everything. Lel Browning, the empire builder, the manipulator, the ghost, was gone. Evelyn Ward's files had exposed corruption on every continent, and Natalie. She vanished again, this time by choice. No aliases, no shadows, just silence. Months later, a photo appeared online, a small art gallery in Lisbon. On its wall hung a single painting, an abstract piece of fire and water signed simply N. Below it a plaque read, The final move is peace. If you made it here, thank you for journeying through the Queen's game from beginning to end. If this story moved you, if you felt the tension, the mystery, the emotion, then don't let it end here. Like the story to show your support. Comment on your favorite twist or theory, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next tale, because every end is just another beginning.